Topping today's news, the acting director of education explains why the Ministry of Education feels it is okay to educate students on the LGBTQI lifestyles. The national security minister gives rationale for the government decision to send troops to Haiti. Officers from the Royal Bahamas Police Force, they go to the office of the Prime Minister to talk about sexual offenses, and the local track and field federation trying to maneuver its way through a controversial trip to NACAC in Costa Rica. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. Speaking at the office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing, Director of Education Dominic McCartney-Russell attempted to clarify that the Ministry of Education is not teaching students about the LGBTQI community as an alternative lifestyle. She explains that students are taught to know what one may expect to meet once they get into the world that's around them.
Our students are aware, in our health and family life education program, our students are aware of all of the issues surrounding education. And so they would be aware of what LGBT means. They are aware of, even in our religious studies curriculum, of loving people regardless of who they are. And so students have that awareness. It's in our curriculum in the sense that students know what is out there.
Mrs. McCartney-Russell says there is no book that is a part of the curriculum that encourages same-sex relationships or lifestyles. She draws an analogy that students are informed about different lifestyles and relationships just as they are informed on different religions in the world.
When you look at the health and family life education, for example, students would be aware of what LGBT means, you know, what that community stands for. We're not teaching it as a, okay, this is an alternative lifestyle for you, but we want them to know what is in their midst. For example, in our religious studies curriculum, we teach the different religions. We teach what is out there, not necessarily for students to participate in, but to know what is there.
In March, the president of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Belinda Wilson, echoed similar sentiments as the director of education in that students should be prepared and aware of what is happening in the world, which reportedly caused much debate among Bahamians on social media. There are reports of an intense immigration exercise on Harbour Island today with more than 100 illegal migrants apprehended. Residents on Harbour Island, they have been complaining of the large influx of illegal migrants for the past several years and have complained of a lack of action by the government as well. In the meantime, in a statement released by the Minister of National Security, Wayne Munro, it says that Bahamians are well aware that the situation in Haiti continues to deteriorate, putting pressure on the borders of the Bahamas as many Haitians attempt to flee the crisis. With more than 100,000 square miles of ocean to patrol, Minister Munro said security requires a comprehensive and aggressive plan to protect our borders. He noted that the government has made significant investments in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force with hundreds of new recruits, expansion of the Defense Force fleet, and new equipment and enhanced technological capabilities. The government has also strengthened cooperation with key partners like the United States, Turks and Caicos, and Cuba in order to fortify our ability to patrol our borders. The minister says the government has been very clear that although we are a compassionate nation, our country is in no position to bear any additional burdens. That is why at the Summit of the Americas, Prime Minister Philip Davis refused to sign a pledge that included a commitment to receive refugees and halt deportations. Minister Munro noted that last year the government repatriated a record number of migrants and that there is now a facility in Anagua that allows for faster processing and repatriation exercises. However, he said we can expect to see more incursions into our waters until the situation in Haiti stabilizes. Minister Munro says earlier this week, the Davis administration welcomed the government of Kenya's decision to commit 1,000 personnel to lead a potential multinational force in Haiti under such a resolution. He said because stabilizing the situation in Haiti is important to our national and regional security, the Bahamas continues to express its willingness to send up to 150 personnel to assist the Haitian National Police in the eventuality that a multinational stabilizing force is authorized and materializes. He said they anticipate the Bahamian personnel would largely be engaged in offering technical and training support to the Haitian National Police. The statement says there are no easy answers for Haiti, but as long as the situation there continues to deteriorate, the Bahamas will face the very expensive and growing burdens associated with incursions into our territory. Minister Monroe said the Prime Minister has emphasized that any involvement of Bahamian military personnel will be contingent on negotiations to ensure the efforts has widespread support in Haiti and is designed to be effective and results-oriented and minimizes risk to those involved. Members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force Sexual Offenses Unit attending the weekly press briefing at the Office of the Prime Minister today to discuss the alarming increase in sexual assaults in 2023. In June, the Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe, reported that overall crime was down by 30% in the first 5 months compared to 2022. However, he said it was unfortunate that the offense of rape has increased, particularly here in the capital. There have been several rapes of elderly women, and just last week, the kidnapping and sexual assault of a 9-year-old girl. ASP Atilda Bowles, she began by breaking down the various categories of rape and sexual offenses on record.
Like Chief Superintendent Skippon said, there are different classification of sexual offenses. We have the rape, we have the unlawful sexual intercourse, we have the incest. When it comes to unlawful sexual intercourse, we have unlawful sexual intercourse with a mentally challenged person, unlawful sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 14, and then a person between the ages of 15 and 14. We also have indecent assaults. We have unnatural sex. So we have variations of classification under the Sexual Offenses Act that our unit deals with.
ASP Bowles also revealed that statistics show that many of the unlawful sexual intercourse cases in the country involving underage girls and boys are related to runaways.
As relates to incidents occurring as relates to sexual offenses, we have seen a direct correlation between unlawful sexual intercourse and runaways. You will find that you have young ladies or young males leaving home, and you would see they have them reported as missing. For the majority of the times, they are runaways engaging in sexual intercourse. During our summer months, you will see there are increases, and has been for history increased during the summer month of a rise in unlawful sexual intercourse. We have children off from school, and probably there's no proper supervision. And without supervision, they say when the cat's away, the cat's away, the rat will play. Yes. And so that's what happened.
The officers reminded of a provision in the law that says responsible adults have a duty to report any form of sexual assault or abuse of children.
And we always tell them that there's something called failing to report. That is found under the Child Protection Act. It's mandatory reporting, Section 63. It speaks to any adult who has information if a child has been abused in any type of way, that's physical or sexual. They have a duty to report, especially when it comes to professionals in your professional capacity, such as a nurse, a doctor, a principal, a teacher. And these things you can find under the Child Protection Act. It's online, Section 62, Chapter 106. When you look at the Sexual Offenses Act, there's also failing to report underneath there. So the government consider the child as so important that we put failing to report under 2 legislation. So we must adhere to it.
Spokesperson Chief Superintendent Christlyn Skippings says the police have and will continue to take adults before the courts for failing to report child abuse. She says they are looking into holding parents and adults even more accountable when failing to report child abuse cases. The police are also encouraging parents to monitor your children on various social media platforms where they can be negatively influenced. And finally, in this segment, During her contribution to the debate on the Protection Against Violence Act 2023, F&M Senator Michaela Barnett Ellis was critical of the switch from the 2016 draft gender-based violence bill, which was worked on for over a decade. In the presence of a packed gallery in the Senate on Wednesday, including wife of the Prime Minister Anne Marie Davis, Deputy to the Governor General Cynthia Pratt, and a number of representatives from women's rights groups, Senator Barnett Ellis agreed that the new bill, now an act, is not as comprehensive as the gender-based violence bill of 2016.
Although it appears today that they have seen the light and are willing to admit that there are two different bills that deal with two different matters, or that the Protection Against Violence bill covers a wider range of violence, or that we could just amend the Protection Against Violence bill to provide additional gender-based violence coverage. It demonstrates that this administration does not truly understand the issue at hand. And if they consulted with the stakeholders, they would have in fact grasped a firmer understanding.
The senator lamented the Davis administration's efforts to consult stakeholders whom she says would be most affected by the bill.
Consultation is not one meeting with 5 days' notice after the bill has been tabled. This administration knows what consultation is. They have a senior jurist that considered and opined on the need for consultation in a leading case right there in law reform. Dame Anita Allen, in the Responsible Development of Abaco case in 2011, said, "Consultation is a vital ingredient of transparency in good government. It's right that public authorities inform and consult those who are affected by their decisions. Proper consultation must be undertaken at a time when proposals are still in the formative stage and must include sufficient reasons for particular proposals to allow those consulted to give intelligent consideration and intelligent response."
Some have criticized the government in regards to the Protection Against Violence Act, which she says legislatively outlines protections afforded to some cases but not to other cases. She gives one example of the danger of such an oversight.
The gender-based violence bill and the Protection Against Violence bill address two different types of violence. In fact, contrary to the assertions made, gender-based violence can include domestic violence, but domestic violence does not cover all gender-based violence. It is limited to violence that occurs in domestic relationships. For example, a woman on her morning run who is sexually assaulted by a stranger, or a woman who is raped in her home by a stranger, or a little boy who is kidnapped and sexually assaulted by a stranger, are all acts of gender-based violence, but are not acts of domestic violence. Shouldn't these persons be entitled to the psychological, medical, and legal assistance that is set out in the Protection Against Violence bill? But they are not covered by the definition of violence in this bill.
This week, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, Bishop Delton Fernanda, also criticized the government as he said the Bahamas Christian Council was not consulted in relation to the new bill. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.